Everybody get one of these amazing scarves. Let's see, everybody pull out. Let's see your scarves. You're officially part of the resistance. This is resistance gear, y'all. So my good friend, Bethany Yellowtail, she's a native designer, Crow, Northern Cheyenne. She designed this amazing design of Crow women at the Crow Fair. It's a very unique moment when women wear the war bonnet. And this is her representation of really the woman warrior. And in this honor, it's also something that's to be noted. Outside of these circumstances, our culture is not a costume, right? Crow culture is not a costume. So headdresses shouldn't be worn at festivals. They should only be worn with honor. That being said, I would like to introduce myself in the Lemmy way. Nautziam and Xeli'Tia Xeli'Tia Sanasnat Haishka Siam Osiam. Xeli'Tia is my Lemmy name. I come from the Golden Eagle clan. It is a name that I carry from 7 generations before me. It belongs to my great-great auntie of my grandfather's side. It generally translates to return to the beginning, to my inherent right to provide healing. And the beginning isn't just my ancestral lineage, but it's into the earth, the roots of Mother Earth. That's what Xeli'Tia means. So I received this name in 2014. And I was told by my elder, by my uncle, by our inherent chief, our hereditary chief, who also is a master weaver. He weaved this hat. It's weaved out of cedar. He told me that it would change some things for me and I would feel better as I move around this world. I'd also like to take this moment to acknowledge the Tongva people and all those indigenous and original people who came here before me, because we all benefit from this land. And I would like to encourage you, wherever you go, to acknowledge the indigenous people of whose land you benefit from. And you can simply do that by, when you get off a plane, take a second, say a silent prayer, and even and acknowledge to anybody else, and just ask. If you don't know, ask. Who are the original people? This is very healing, not just for yourselves, but for the indigenous people who came before you. So I'm standing here today again in front of you with the microphone. I'm honored to be here. It's a pleasure to see each and every one of you. A room full of beautiful brown people, a rainbow tribe of people from all over with each unique stories and histories. And we're coming together in this movement of rising up. And I call myself a water protector now because I had this incredible experience at Standing Rock and realized my identity as a water protector, as an inherent one, some that I was born with. We call that shalangan in my language, or way of life. My way of life, as I have traveled through this journey from Coast Salish, Lummi Land, which is almost all the way up to Canada. It's between Vancouver and Seattle. Who's been up in that area? Raise your hand. Yeah, not very many. Well, it's rainy and beautiful and green. It rains more than it did this winter, but because of it, we have beautiful lakes and rivers. My life, since I was 4 years old, has been about football. And I don't mean American. Who's footballer up in here? Who play? Let me hear it. Stand up, stand up, stand up. Where are my footballers at? Yes, footballers. Okay. Who plays sports? Stand up. Stand up if you play sports. Okay. Who is in the arts? Everybody stay standing. Who's an artist? Stand up if you're an artist. Who's into music? Stand up. Okay. Singing, writing, reading, anything, you guys can sit down. I just wanted to say, this is something that connects us all. So my life has been, as a Lummi as a Lummi girl, I learned my first passion. It was actually dance. I started dancing ballet. And then at the age of 12, my mom said, you have to choose what's it going to be, ballet or soccer. And without a thought, it was like soccer, obviously. Why? Why soccer? Because I belonged. I belonged to that team. And my contributions to that team, no matter how big or small, were important. Whether I sat on the bench or I was a starter, whether I was a captain, whether I was a defender, a forward, a striker, a midfielder, it didn't matter. My contributions to that team were important and valued. So I found this passion, just like I imagine each of you have discovered a passion, something you love, something that fuels you, something that motivates you. Doesn't have to be football, soccer. It can be whatever you want. It can be reading. It can be books. It can be school. One thing that my mom instilled upon me was if I wanted to do my passion, if I wanted to play the game that I love so much, then I had to get good grades. Being a student was my #1 priority. So it worked, because if I wasn't doing so well, my mom would say, oh, well, you're not going to go to that game this weekend. And so I made sure that I kept my grades up. And I worked hard at school. I worked hard at being a student athlete, and eventually found my way to Arizona State University, where I played on a full ride, native girl, playing at a D1 school, Pac-10 at the time. And it just carried me through this life where I got to travel. I was going to Hawaii. At the age of 16, I was on a U.S. youth national team. I was going to Germany for 2 weeks, learning and hearing different languages. At the time, growing up for me, it wasn't as visible on television. Football wasn't, soccer wasn't. But I loved it so much that I wanted to continue to work towards that passion. And what I ended up doing was I ended up finding myself in a career when I came back, I went and played overseas in Sweden. Oh, I also blew out my knee 3 times, and that changed things. Who's on crutches over there? Oh, man. I know how you feel. But you pick yourself back up, right? You heal. You do the rehab. You do the work to heal. And how that carried me into this moment, I realized soccer has provided me not just academic education, but education all over the world. I ended up covering the World Cup qualifiers for Brazil. I traveled to Honduras. I traveled to Jamaica. I've been to Germany, Spain. I was on the sidelines of the Bernabeu interviewing Ronaldo. All of a sudden, here I am getting Messi's jersey. I got a signed jersey from Messi. I know it's been a world tour through this beautiful game of football, and I felt like our native kids should have access to this. Every single person that loves this game should have access to this. So what football taught me how to find my voice. I'm a center back, I'm a defender, I can see the whole field. And I learned to command, slide right, step. I learned to step into battle. I learned to be confident. I learned how that self-esteem got me not just somewhere on the soccer pitch, but also in my career, also in my academics. And then I found myself all of a sudden on the front line of Standing Rock with guns pointed at my head and threats of supposed non-violent or non-lethal, deadly, what did they call them? Non-lethal weapons or artillery being threatened at us as water protectors. And here we are unarmed. We have no weapons. All we have is our songs and our prayers. And Standing Rock was this whole unique movement, and it was because of the youth. I remember the first time I got there, I remember being overwhelmed with pride. All of a sudden, there was this space for Native people to be Native, to be the leaders. It was primarily brown, kind of like this room. It was like primarily a place for us to be who we are without judgment and to sing our songs and to let our voices be heard and to share our stories. And I remember the second time I went back, so I went 3 times, and the second time I went back, I know I gotta wrap this up. The second time I went back was Thanksgiving, which is all a bit ironic given the history of Thanksgiving. And it was on Thanksgiving Day, and it was when about 10,000 people showed up to Standing Rock. And the first time it was peaceful, there was very limited confrontation. The second time, no DAPL and DAPL Security and Energy Transfer Partners and the Morton County Sheriff's, the police department, had gotten privy and wise to how we shut down construction sites. And they wanted to make sure to really flex their power. And so it was that day on Thanksgiving, we decided to circle what they called Turtle Hill, which is where the ancestors were sleeping. Ancestors are resting. It's a burial ground. It's like a cemetery, right? And the police officers stood on top of that hill, and they had their Thanksgiving meal on top of those graves. In the meantime, it's negative degrees out. It's freezing. All these water protectors showing up with their signs and their art. I've never known art to be so powerful as I have during this experience. I understand it differently now. I see how important and valuable it is. So we show up, I canoe across this little moat, and they say to us, "You walking towards us is a sign of aggression, and we have no choice but to use our firearms, our non-lethal rubber bullets. You putting on your goggles to essentially protect ourselves from mace in the eyes, you putting your goggles on is a sign of aggression, and we'll have no choice but to attack you." They were saying this over the microphone. "You putting on your face masks, that's a sign of aggression. You walking towards us, you holding..." So they essentially asked us not to defend ourselves. But who am I? I'm a defender. I'm a defender. I'm a defender of this land. I'm a defender of all these people, of the youth, of the next generation. That is my duty. That is my obligation. So I walked towards them with my shield and my face mask. I was scared. I was really scared. I was trying to fix myself. I'm like, okay, I'm going to put my shoe up like this. Okay, nope, down. I spent 40 minutes getting ready for what you can't get ready for. And then when I walked out there, I was looking for leadership. I was looking for indigenous leadership because that's who I knew would lead us in a good way, in a right way. I was looking for Lakota leadership because I was on Lakota, Standing Rock Sioux land. But there were 10,000 people there, all different colors, all different races, all different backgrounds. So where were the leaders? And then there was some white men that would come in and they'd say, "Brothers, you have to pray." And I found myself going, "No, you don't get to tell us how to pray, white man. You don't get to tell us that." And then I found another white man saying, "We gotta push through the police officers." And I said, "No, who are you? Who are you?" "Sister, if you're scared, you can go back across." I said, "No, we just don't need another white man telling us what to do." And they went, "Oh, yeah, oh, sorry." But I got really angry at that moment, and I was looking for this indigenous leadership, and the next thing I knew, I had a shield, and I was crutching behind the shield as they were saying, "We are gonna shoot you. We are gonna spray you with water cannons. You are being aggressive, and we have to attack you back." And all I could hear, all I could feel was my grandmother. It was her birthday. My grandma, Sneetnut, my late grandmother. It was her birthday, Thanksgiving Day. And I could hear her song. And the song is about water. It's our table song. It's the one song I knew. The one song I knew, and I started singing, and I used my drum I used my shield as the drum. And I just started singing our song. It went, oh, 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 oh. This is the Women Warrior song. Our table song is actually different. All of a sudden, I started hearing everybody singing this song with me. And the police officers lowered their weapons, and it was just the prayer that we needed. I want to sing it for you, but I need a drum. I feel like I need a drum. The drums are somewhere. The police officers started lowering the weapons. 100 people joined with me. And it was at that moment that I recognized that this was what they couldn't defeat. They couldn't defeat our spirit. They couldn't defeat the peace. They met us with violence. We met them with peace. And this is why Standing Rock has continued to be successful. That's why ING Bank just pulled out hundreds of millions of dollars from the from the Dakota Access Pipeline. It's not over. Although they have removed Indians from the land, from their own land, breaking again treaties with violence, building this pipeline through the sacred water, Standing Rock still lives. And it lives in each and every one of us. And I want you to use your passion, whatever it may be, whether it's soccer, football, sports, music. And I want you to recognize your gift as your voice and your tool to know that when it's your turn to step to that front line and your fist is raised, that you do it in a prayerful, peaceful way, knowing that your ancestors are with you and that you're doing it from a good place. Because when I sang that day, I probably sang for about 45 minutes straight. I found a voice that I had never heard within me. Find your voice. Find your voice. Xeli'Tia.